start over today's webinar, and all the best to each one of you for the learning.
अब शेयर कर दें. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on the common issues and the resolution in the application softwares of GSTR 3B, GSTR 1, and TRAN 1. This webinar will, the agenda of this is, how do we go to this? Next. The agenda is briefly, to set the context, we will talk briefly about the different softwares, the application softwares that are currently available on the portal. GSTR 3B, key steps, filing, key issues, and then GSTR 1, both online and offline filing, key steps and issues, and then TRAN. Now, GSTR 3B, you all know, is a simple form, return form, which has been prescribed, because you have time limit, the due dates of the filing of GSTR 1 and GSTR 2 has been extended. It has to be filed by the 20th and by all the normal and casual taxpayers, and it is a summary declaration in which you have to give taxable value, tax paid of outward supplies, taxable value, tax paid of supplies subject to reverse charge, then exempt and non-taxable inward supplies, ITC availed, ITC reversal, net ITC, ineligible ITC, payment of taxes, late fee, and interest. I'm going fast on these slides because you are already familiar that around more than 95 lakh people have already filed GSTR 3B. So the taxpayers have got some familiarity of the different components of GSTR. Now to file, presently it is filing of GSTR 3B is mainly done through online filing, but the GSP filing through GST Suvidha providers is also not now available. People can save data and also file data through GSPs. But I will be focusing only on the online because this facility has been started just recently, the GSP facility. In this, you have to go through that navigate to the GSTR 3B tile through services return after logging in using your user ID and password, and in each section one has to fill the details and press confirm, and then save so the data is not lost. You can save multiple times after each section, and the save button is at the bottom. Now, one problem which was there earlier, that preview was not there, so people were making mistakes. Now this preview and submit button is available, so when you press this preview and submit, you see the preview, and then you can verify the preview from the business records, your accounting records. If the preview is correct, you then see whether the amount available in the ITC and cash balance so you have to see that the ITC and cash available in the ledgers in both major and minor head is sufficient to pay your liabilities. One key issue which you have to see is that in this GST regime, both major and minor head, there is no cross utilization in respect of cash. So the amount that you deposit in cash, if you wrongly deposit in some cess and your liability is in suppose SGST, then you cannot use it. So you have to be careful while making this challan and depositing the money. Yeah, if my money has to be deposited, you have to prepare the challan and deposit money, and then when the money gets reflected in the ledger, then you can offset that liabilities using the ITC and cash by entering them into the data fields in the payment screen. And see, one requirement is that you will not be able to offset liability unless until full payment of the liability is there. So once liabilities are offset, Then you have to select the authorized signatory and file GSTR 3B as per the applicable signature of PPC or DSC. Now, this is the basic, the step. So next, I will discuss some of the issues that have come to us and which we have seen that people make mistakes. But nevertheless, I think all of us should be cognizant of this fact that in July, for the July month, so far 53 lakh GSTR 3B have already been filed, and for August around 44.21 lakhs. So the people are now gradually adapting to this new return and successfully filing this return. Now, one mistake, one issue which has cropped up in a big scale in July, and then again we have noticed in some cases in August, is that people are making mistake while entering data, and they realize this mistake after they submit the GSTR 3B return. Now, this mistake can be in respect of wrong data entries, putting an additional zero or additional digit, or sometimes people have put all their all their inward supplies into the reverse charge column, or they have made mistake in claiming ITC on reverse charge, or claiming ITC on other sections. So this people make this mistake, but one feature is that after submit, so far there is no facility for, as per law, for revision of GSTR 3B. See, submit is basically a part of filing. So what submit means that you are filing it. Now, people should be very cautious when they are submitting. They should see the preview, verify it again and again that the data in the different sections are correct, and then only they should try to submit it. This problem came in a big way in case of July, but so people made the serious mistakes and they didn't file at all. So what we did was, when this problem came to the notice of GST, and in a big way a policy was adopted that for those who have not offset their liabilities or liabilities for July month, their GSTR 3B was reset and they could again file. More than 2 lakhs such GSTR 3B were reset a few days back, and people have been filing it. Now, another problem which people have reported is they have taken registration, applied for registration in the month of July, and then they took registration in the month of August, and they were granted registration in the month of August. So such people were trying to file return for July, but as per law, and both the application also has been designed as per law, such taxpayers who get their registration in the month of August and the date of liability was from 1st July, they are not required to file the return of July. They have to include their liabilities in the return of GSTR 3B. So such taxpayers should not worry if the tab of July month, the month July is not visible in their GSTR 3B. Now, another problem which has been frequently reported is that people are finding it difficult to accurately put the payment figures in the payment tab. Now, this is because this is a new law and it has certain new provisions. Because of this dual nature of IG and the GST that we are implementing, there are certain prioritization rule which a taxpayer has to follow while cross-utilizing the credits. The IGST credit, we all know, is a credit which can be cross-utilized for paying liability of CGST and SGST liability. But the rule is that first you have to pay your IGST liability, and after extinguishing that liability, after full discharge has been made of that liability using that IGST credit, then only you can use the excess amount for paying CGST credit and then SGST credit. Now, this is the order in which that cross-utilization of IGST credit has to be done. And if this order is not followed properly when you are entering the details in the payment, entering the values in the payment payment section, the system has a validation check and it gives you error. Now, similarly for CGST credit and SGST credit also, there is a cross utilization permissible, that CGST credit can be used for IGST liability, but before that you should extinguish your CGST liability using that credit, and then any excess credit can be used for paying IGST liability. Similarly for SGST credit, you have to first use that credit for extinguishing your SGST liability, and then you can use it for paying IGST liability. CGST credit can be used for IGST, but if you have both CGST credit and SGST credit, now since settlement has to take place, the first priority is for using the CGST credit for IGST liability. So another issue which has been reported is that if people have by mistake submitted wrong figures in their TRAN 1 and are not filing their TRAN 1, then they say they are not able to file their GSTR 3B. Now this feature is built in the application because you need to file trans 1 with a signature, then only that credit can be utilized for making payments of other returns. So all the taxpayers who have submitted their TRAN 1, even if the figures are wrong, need to first file it. Now people were having insecurities that TRAN 1, if they have made mistake in filing their TRAN 1, how will they be able to claim the extra credit? But that insecurity has been addressed by the GST Council, and notification has been issued that they will be allowed to revise their TRAN 1 once. The application for this is being developed and it will be available shortly, very soon on the portal for revising your TRAN 1. So you should not worry too much about the first filing that you have already submitted TRAN 1, and you should file it, and then only you will be able to file GSTR 3B. Now, one should also remember that the feature of GSTR 3B is that if you have not filed GSTR 3B of July, you will be not able to file GSTR 3B of August. So you have to file TRAN 1 and then GSTR 3B of July and then GSTR 3B of August. There sometimes individual cases people have faced technical glitches, and especially in respect of their registration application and registration facilities. So when those problems, technical glitches get resolved, they get a message that it has been resolved and they should try again. For such cases, one general precaution is there for all application, that the taxpayer should first clear the browsing history, clear the cached images and files, remove cookies and other data, and then try again. Otherwise, that you get the same screen of the original problem and you're not able to proceed forward. That was basically the main issues which have been noticed in GSTR 3B, but now people are able to filing it quite smoothly. So if you are alert and you don't make mistakes in GSTR 3B, you will be able to, you will not be able to face much problem. See, I will take up the questions later on. So now we move to GSTR 1. Now GSTR 1 is a return which is a very fundamental part, a keystone of our this GST regime that we are implementing. In this return, a taxpayer has to declare GSTR 1 का बाद next slide. अच्छा ठीक. So in GSTR 1, basically it is a statement of outward supplies, and the taxpayer has to declare his supplies both to registered taxpayers, unregistered taxpayers, export and exempt supplies. Since the credit verification is taking place through the system, all the supplies to registered taxpayers have to be reported at the invoice level, and invoice, credit notes and amendment at the invoice, these have to be declared in the GSTR 1. And also we have to, there are flags for SEZ and subject to reverse charge. In case of export, since shipping bill is at invoice level and refund takes place after examination and validation of the export at invoice level details are being captured, are required to be captured. So these invoice, credit note have to be declared, and amendments in case of export. In case of unregistered taxpayers, there are two types of transactions which the return wants. One, greater than 2.5 lakhs, which have to be reported at the invoice, credit, debit note and amendment level. And all other less than 2.5 interstate have to be declared at summary level, POS and rate wise. Then a consolidated summary details, there is a table for exempt, nil rated and non-taxable, and then summary details of advance receipt, advance adjusted, and HSN summary. In this HSN and UQC combination should be unique. And another is document issued details, the different types of documents that you have issued in the tax period. Now the key steps in online filing you must be familiar, but I will again go through them one by one before coming to the issues. That one has to log in, come to the GSTR 1 page through the navigation dashboard, return month, and enter data in all the different tiles. All the different sections are visible as tile. One has to click that tile and enter data in it, and then save data. Now one thing that one should be very cautious is that when you save a data, if a line item is not processed with error, this means that this data has not been saved in the database and it is not a part of your return. So one should correct this processed with error line and then again save the data, so that when there is no processed with error, then only the data becomes a part of your return. Now it has been seen that there is a tile on the, you see on the return page. Sometimes the tile takes time to update with the figure that you have entered after clicking in within the tile. So one way to speeden up this update is to you click the generate summary button, which is there at the bottom left of the GSTR 1 page. And if you click this button, you will be able to update the tile. But one feature to prevent misuse of this button is that once you click this GSTR 1 summary button, you can again click it only after 10 days. I mean, this has been made because people then frequently press it, and this creates unnecessary instructions on to the system, gives unnecessary multiple instructions. Now, after you have entered data in all the fields, you are required to preview them. After previewing, when you click the preview button, a draft preview gets downloaded as PDF, which you have to examine. And after then you should compare this preview with your accounting records. If it is correct, if it is incorrect, you make again correction in your declared data. And when there are no mistakes, then there is a declaration now. To ensure that people don't make a mistake, you have to tick a declaration that the data that you have entered, you have previewed the data and is accurate and satisfactory. So after taking this declaration, then only you can submit this GSTR 1. And after submission, you have to press file return, then again tick a declaration, a page will come and select the authorized signatory and sign and file the return. Now, this was the key steps for online filing. Already 33.93 lakh taxpayers have filed this GSTR 1. And a significant number of them have filed it online, but a larger chunk have filed it using the offline tool, which will come later on. Now, one problem which taxpayers report is that when they enter or upload data into the GSTR1 different tiles, they find that it is not the numbers are not same as that in the tile. So that's why for that you need to update the summary. One problem which people have reported is that they have forgotten to upload the details of certain invoices, and they have submitted the return. Then what should they do? Now, as you know, the design that we are implementing, that if you have forgotten to upload certain invoices which have been issued to a registered taxpayer and you have submitted your GSTR1, you cannot make changes in this GSTR1. However, you can ask your recipient to add those missing invoices when they file their GSTR2. And when they add these missing invoices and file their GSTR2, these missing invoices will be auto drafted to you in GSTR1A. And if you accept them and convey your acceptance to the GST portal, these will get auto appended to your GSTR1, and they will form and the liability of the GSTR3 will include the liability on such invoices. So you will not have to pay any interest, and you can pay the liability by asking your recipient to add them and accepting in your GSTR1A. If the recipients don't add them, then also you can include these invoices in the next month's GSTR1, but then you will have to pay some interest. So if you have missed it, you can still add these liabilities either through recipient or next month's GSTR1. Now, another problem which many people reported was how should they file nil return. Now, nil return, the procedure that is now well established is that for filing nil return, you have to first generate summary. After generating summary, you preview and then you click submit it, and then you can file it. So by simply these few steps, you can file a nil return if you have not done any business in that tax period. Now, style summary not updated. I have already told you that you have to press this generate summary button and then it gets updated. One problem which many taxpayers are reporting is that they have supplied to an SEZ and they have charged as per law an IGST, but when they are going entering that recipient's GSTIN in the GSTR1, that B2B table, that SEZ boxes are not enabled. Now, this problem arises if the recipient's SEZ is not having the flag of SEZ. Now, this in case of as per GST law, all SEZ have to have a separate registration, all SEZ units or developers. But in case of migrated users, this flag was initially not there because many users migrated in December, January, February, March, and these provisions came in the later versions of law. So what has been done is that mail was sent to those who were having SEZ in the as a principal place of business and nature of business, and with the request that if they don't send back any reply, their flag will be made SEZ. So such cases have been flagged as SEZ, but in those cases where the people had uploaded invoice or had filed some return, mail has been sent asking them to send a mail that they are a SEZ unit, and then this here the technical team of GSTN and Infosys, then they do it, enable the SEZ flag. So in case your recipient is not having an SEZ flag, but it is a SEZ unit, you should ask your recipient to send mail to a GSTN and get their SEZ flag enabled. So I think next point is that you should be knowing that even if you have made mistake in GSTR3B, you can correct those mistakes in GSTR1. Now, another issue which is reported and people have sought clarification many times is that how should they report if they have supplied goods through a e-commerce operator. Now, if you see the return, the format, in all sections there is a provision for declaring supplies through e-commerce operators. But since that TCS provision are not yet notified, as per those provisions, those TCS operators were required to collect tax at 1%, yes, at a particular percentage. But since those TCS provisions are not notified and people have not been allotted TCS registration numbers, all the suppliers are required now to report their supplies other than e-commerce tab. Because if you supply through an e-commerce tab, the system wants a e-tin, and the structure of the TCS tin is different from the normal tin, and then our system throws a validation error. So all supplies should be without this e-commerce flag. It should be reported without this e-commerce flag. Now, another question which many people have asked is how we have in our UI and the user interface of online GSTR1 filing, we have provided only certain specified rates which are allowed, say 0.25, 3, 5, 12 and 16, and these rates are there. 12 and 18 and 28. So they say that if they made a mistake while charging a particular tax rate, and later on they were issuing tax credit debit note or a credit note for a differential tax amount, how should they report it? Now, since this restriction is there in the UI that you can report only the standard rates, and if you have collected or given a credit note or issued a debit note for say 8%, then you should not worry about entering the 8%, but you should make the amount of the tax as per 8%. You can still select the percentage which is applicable for that particular goods. But if the amount gets calculated as per that percentage, you need to change that amount to the amount which is actually there in the credit note, and the system will accept it, and the counterparty will get the benefit. You need not worry about the tax rate. Now, another issue that people are reporting is that in case of say people have opted for composition in the month of August, since the composition date was extended till August 16, and they opted for composition in August, so some people had confusion that they need to file GSTR 3B and GSTR 1 for July. But as per law, this composition levy was effective from 1st July. So they have to file their composition return for the quarter July, August, September, which will be available soon on the portal in this month. And they are not required to file GSTR 1 or 3B for the month of July if they have opted for composition, earlier composition before the August 16 deadline. Now, another composition scheme was opened in the last month, in which people were given an option to opt for a composition from 1st of October. Now, such taxpayers have to file their GSTR 1 and 3B for the month of July, August, and September, and their composition levy will be effective from 1st October, and they will have to file their GSTR 4, that is that composition return, from the October quarter, which will be, the first return will be due in the month of January. Now, some people who have filed their GSTR 1 of July are entering data in the GSTR 1 of August month. Now, our system is allowing people to save data, but it is not permitting them to submit it, because this submission can happen only after the filing of GSTR 3 of this July month, and the due dates of the filing of GSTR 1 for August will be made available soon. So presently, people can only save data in the GSTR 1 of August, but they cannot file, and they should not worry about this situation. They should prepare the return, and when it opens up, you will be able to submit and file it. Now, same thing which I said for 3B. you have to keep in mind for GSTR1 also that if because of some technical problem, you face some issue and that technical problem got resolved. So you need to take this step of clearing your browsing history, clearing cached images and files and removing cookies before you again attempt. Otherwise, you may face any problem. Now, I will discuss the issues and steps of filing GSTR1 through offline utility. The majority of the taxpayers have used this offline utility to prepare their GSTR1 return. And some people are facing problem also, but I will take you through quickly through the steps and then the issues. Now, one thing which you should always keep in mind whenever you prepare a return using the offline tool is you should go to the portal, see what is the latest version of offline tool that is available for download, and ensure that that latest version is installed on your computer. If it is not installed, you should download the latest offline tool. That is presently it is version 1.2.1. It may get updated soon when we release the GSTR2 offline tool also. So whenever you are using this GSTR offline tool, you should ensure that it is the latest. But when you download and install the latest, you should first uninstall the old one compulsorily. Otherwise, you will not be able to install this new version. After downloading, you have to unzip the folder, extract the files. Then you will find 4 or 5 files, and one file is GSTR1 offline tool.exe. This file has to be double-clicked to install the GSTR1 offline tool. And once the installation is complete, you will find an icon on your desktop, one tax, one nation, the small icon, orange icon, which is there. You have to double click that icon to launch the tool. Now this tool, along with this tool, you will get Excel template also, which can be used for importing data to this tool. Now, the most preferred way in which people are using this tool is that they enter data into the Excel template and then import that Excel template in this Java tool, and then they prepare the required file. So I will take you through the steps for this preparation. Now, before you start preparing your return, you should clear data from both the Excel and the Java tool. In Java, there's a delete all sections, and in Excel, you should delete all the sample data. Or if you are preparing a return for the next lot, you should clear the earlier data. Now, one thing also you have to keep in mind that though we have in the Excel provided 2 sheets of nil rated and exempt, one sheet and one sheet of document issued, you don't have to enter data in these sheets because this data is not getting imported into the tool. These sectional data have to be entered directly on the portal. And this you should always keep in mind that presently the nil rated and exempt section data and the document issued section data have to be directly entered on the portal. These are not getting prepared in the offline file that you are uploading. So what you have to do is prepare the Excel, prepare the sections, enter the data into the different sections into the different fields. Import the Excel. There is an import facility in the Java offline tool. Use it to browse and import the Excel worksheet in the Java offline tool. And check the summary. There is a summary in the offline tool. There is a summary in the Excel. You check there if all the data has been imported. If some data has been rejected, then you have to see what are the errors, and then again enter them in the Excel and import, or enter those data directly in the Java tool. Once you are satisfied that all the required data, return data is there in the Java tool, offline tool, then you generate the JSON file and upload that JSON file onto the portal. Now on uploading also, there are some validation checks. Some data may get rejected, but whatever data gets successfully saved will be reflected in your tiles of the GSTR1 homepage. If you go there, in the different tiles, uploaded data will be reflected. If it is not reflected, you should generate summary and update the tiles. Now, if there is some data has been processed with error, there will be error file generated and the message will be processed with error. Now, if there is an error, then there will be a link, generate error report. You have to click that link and it takes around 20 minutes for the system to generate the error report. It is a batch process and the error report will be generated. And when the error report gets generated, the link will now read as download error report. You have to download that error report. Now this error file which you are downloading can be opened in that offline tool. There is a center blue button in that offline tool for opening the error name. Not the center, the right button for opening the error file. You have to open the error file and then you can make changes in the data which is visible. The data which has been processed with error, all the fields will be visible of that data. You will also have the error message in one column. The error message, you have to read that error message and make correction in the data. Now, the system, there is a certain constraint that certain fields of the data that has been that are visible on in your this error file, those cannot be changed, like GSTR in B2B and that invoice table and credit note table, invoice number in B2C large table, credit note unregistered and export tables, and place of supply in advance received and advance adjusted. Similarly, there are other fields which cannot be changed. So if the system is not allowing you to change these fields, you have to reject these entries, delete these entries, and upload fresh entries with the correct GSTN invoice number and POS. Now, if you have made these changes, you have deleted these line items. Anyway, these were not there. If you have modified these fields and corrected the values, you can again generate the correct JSON and upload it, the corrected JSON file. Now, another issue which many people have reported, and it is being continuously addressed and the system is being refined continuously, is that many times what people are saying that they have uploaded the data which is by mistake not the correct data. Now they want to delete or modify that data. Presently, what the scheme is available, I will take you through. And what you have to do, you have to download the GSTR1 data from the download tab that is there. Now, all this, when you download the data, we are attempting, presently you have to download all the data. We are also attempting to refine this feature, but present facility is that you have to download all the data and then you have to open in the Java offline tool. In the center, there is a center button for opening the downloaded file. Now, after opening, what you can do is you can delete select the invoice lines, invoice numbers, and there is a delete button at the bottom. You can select multiple and delete, or you can select one and delete. And the flag, now the status will become D. If you find that certain values are not correct, you can modify the field values and the status will become M. So you can delete or modify the already successfully uploaded data and then again regenerate the JSON and upload the generated JSON data. Now what these D and M will modify the earlier uploaded data. Now another way in which you can do it, so if you know very well that the data that you have uploaded for a particular invoice number is wrong, what you can do is you can upload again the data, the correct data for that invoice number. And what the system does is it overrides the earlier data. So now when you upload fresh again the same invoice number data with the correct values, the earlier wrong values will get overwritten and you will have a correct data in your return. Now, other ways in which you can use this offline tool is One method is that you enter directly in this offline tool. You can enter directly and prepare your return. If you have few invoices, you can prepare few entries in a particular section. You can do it directly. Or what you can do is you can copy paste from an Excel file. So while copying pasting, you have to select the whole Excel right from the top corner and then paste it in the window that is provided in the tool. There is a there is a button which enables this upload, which opens up this window, and you can upload paste this Excel file. You can also import CSV files which have been generated from your accounting software if they have the same headers as the headers are there in the template which accompanies the download of CSV, this offline tool. When you download offline tool, you will find a file with CSV template, one Excel template, one README, one help, and manual file. So if you prepare a CSV file in that header, you can import it directly, but this import is section by section. What this Excel allows is, it allows you multi-section import in one go. You can enter data in all the sections and import it in one go. Now, one of few issues which have been reported, I will discuss now for this offline utility. One issue that has been reported, or that is often reported, is that they find discrepancy in the data that is there in the Java offline tool that is reflected in the summary, and the data that they have entered in this offline tool in the Excel offline tool, Excel utility. Now, this discrepancy arises because when you are importing this Excel file into the offline tool, some of the data gets rejected because certain validation checks are being performed in your offline tool. And if those data don't pass those validation checks, they are rejected by the system. Now, some of these, which the validation checks that are being performed in our offline tool, are that if the date format is not correct, you will find the message, a pop-up message will come that these invoices have been rejected because of invalid date format. Now, the date format, it is already visible in the Excel, is that it is DDMMYY, that is 1st July 2017. All the data should have, invoice data should have this date format, otherwise the system will reject, the offline tool will reject it. Now, if there are duplicate invoice, credit note, debit note numbers in the imported data, then the system doesn't take duplicate. If you have got duplicate in Excel, Excel allows duplicate entry, but those get rejected when they are entered in the offline tool. Now, there are other certain validation checks that invoice date should always be within the tax period or before the tax period for which you are filing return. It cannot be after the tax period. So in case of July, it cannot be also before also, but it should be restricted to July. Now, if the data gets rejected also when there are invalid character in invoice number and debit credit note number like percentage, star, these are not permissible number in the invoice series, and it is already there in our invoice rules, and our system also rejects these such invoice numbers. In another case, you should be watchful that the shipping bill date should be after the invoice, export invoice. If it is before, the system rejects it. Now, these are some of the validations. I have just given you one list, small list, but there are a number of others. So one should be very cautious while filling data in the Excel. Now, it is advised that what we have done is we have built some of the validations in the Excel, which is downloaded from the GST portal. So it is advisable that you use that Excel. Some people have generally they have the same headers and don't use it, so they may face problems of such validation when the system data is imported in the Excel in the offline tool. And even if it gets imported in the offline tool, there is problem when it is uploaded to the portal. Now, there is always a issue with people say that I have uploaded these many number of invoices, yeah, this data on the portal, but the portal is in the summary, we are seeing a different number. Now, this issue also is there because the portal performs certain validation check on the offline tool. All the checks cannot be performed in the offline mode. So there are certain checks which can be performed only with the existing database in our GST system. Those are performed on the portal, and if there are any errors, those data get rejected. So if an invoice has a wrong GSTN or a GSTN which is not active or not registered, it is getting rejected. So the number of successful uploads, number of invoices which get successfully upload is lesser than what you have uploaded through the offline tool. Now, some of the errors which people have, which the validation checks which the system does, are illustrated in the slide. You can see one is correctness of GSTN. So what presently the system is doing is checking whether the GSTN is active or not, because it has to be auto drafted to a recipient, a registered recipient. Then again, the system checks whether the invoice number are duplicate or not, because what the system requires is that you should have unique invoice number for the whole financial year. In a particular financial year, all invoice numbers number should be unique. So the system validates this. So if you have uploaded one chunk earlier and then you are again uploading another, if there is a duplicate, presently it is getting overwritten, but say in case of August return, it will throw an error. Another, I think if you have seen the tables, in the tables, you have to give the reference of the credit debit note, the invoice reference. So if these invoice references are not present in the database, then the system throws an error, because presently the format requires that you should have a correct invoice number reference for each credit debit note. Similarly, I said in case of shipping bill also, if the date is before if the date is before the export invoice date, then the system is will throw an error. It should be after the invoice date. Now, what happens is that whatever errors, validation errors take place, they are separated, they are not saved, and they are available for download as an error file. So you can download their error file and carry out validation checks. Correct the file and then again upload it. Now, one problem which has also been reported is that people have prepared that their return file using the offline tool. Now, offline tool performs all the validations. Now, when they are uploading this file through the offline tool, our GST system rejects the file and says ki the JSON has been uploaded because it doesn't conforms to the structure that is acceptable to the system. Now, a different message is there that you should again check the data. So whenever a JSON is uploaded, you have to again see the data, the quality of the data that you have entered. Sometimes what is happening is that some errors are not visible very clearly. So you have to, if there are tools available on internet, you can use those tools to compare the JSON that you have, the offline tool has generated with the JSON structure that is available on the developer portal. You can yourself compare and find out the errors. But what we have noticed is that the following errors have been noticed. Sometimes what is happening is there is a prescribed length for GSTN, that is, it should be 15 digit. But sometimes there is a blank character in front of that digit. This was entered either in the Excel or in the offline tool. It was not noticeable. And because of that, the system is rejecting, because only 15 GSTN should be only 15 character. Similarly, the JSON gets rejected. We have noticed that in cases where people have entered more than 2 decimal digits in the Excel and it somehow gets imported in the offline tool, and when they are preparing that JSON and uploading, because all the values are not in 2 decimal digits, the system rejects it. The same is true about date format. Date format should be in the format that is acceptable to the system, that is DDMMYY 28 September 2017. and the invoice number should have only the allowable characters, that is the characters which are allowable of alphabets, number, hyphen, and forward slash. If you put a backward slash, we find that in many cases this JSON has been rejected. So one has to be very cautious while entering data, and again it is advisable to use the template that we have provided rather than having your own template with the validation checks. Next. ठीक है अभी next अभी TRAN हाँ I've already answered the second one हाँ ठीक है. When the another what we have find is people say this offline tool is slow. We are trying to have improve it, and in the next version we are going to have a much faster offline tool. But nevertheless, the tool that you are having, you can speed up by using a proper browser, and we have found that it works best in Firefox and Google Chrome. And you can open the your tool by opening the browser and putting this address localhost :3010 in the address bar HTTP, and the browser will open. As I have already told, that you can correct the earlier wrong uploaded data by putting a correct data with the same invoice number by uploading it again, and it overrides the earlier data. This is also a way in which you can correct your earlier successfully uploaded data. Now the last, there are many questions, but I hope I have addressed most of them. But now we come to TRAN 1. TRAN 1 is a fairly simple form, but since it involves transition of credit from the earlier regime, people have faced problem in preparing it also and in entering correct values. Now, this is a form in which you take credit of the tax that a taxpayer has paid in earlier regime on such goods which he is again required to supply in GST period. So it enables set off of the tax already paid and avoids cascading. So this facility has been provided to all existing taxpayer. And there are different tables. In one table, you take credit forward from the last filed return of central excise, service tax, and VAT. And another, you take credit of unavailed credit on capital goods under earlier laws. Then there is a table for taking credit on taxes paid under earlier laws for goods and services which have become taxable now, either because of lowering of threshold or because of classification. ठीक है, फिर उसके बाद next is कि then there is another table in which you have you take goods which have become taxable, and there is another table in which you take goods which were on which tax were paid in under earlier laws, but you have received in GST and you are likely to pay taxes in GST regime. Under central, and there is a table for distributing credit to different PAN units in case you had a centralized registration under service tax earlier. Then you take the credit in this regime, credit excess credit that is there in your return, and then distribute it to the different units which have now got registered under GST. And then there are different tables for taking VAT or earlier tax on which there is a provision that if VAT and service tax both were leviable under earlier law and you have paid some tax, and it is now also taxable under GST, then you take credit of the VAT service tax that you have paid under earlier law and pay the GST under this law. Now you and this GST regime, people who have agents who had a stock from the principal are entitled to take credit on the stocks which have been paid on the taxes which were paid by the principal. There is a table for taking the declaration of both the principal and agents and giving credit to the agents. And there are two declaration tables for job worker, the goods that have the manufacturers have with the job worker on the appointed date, and goods that were sent for sale in the past 3 months. There are two tables in this. So all these tables, there is a form, TRAN1 form, which is available. So if you can navigate through services return transition forms and TRAN1, and then you can fill the relevant tables. Now, what we find is that is, since in TRAN1, each the format that is available, you have to click each tile, each tab, and then you fill data. And when you save data, there is a line item processed with error. Now, if a line item is processed with error, you should remember that it is not getting saved in your TRAN1 application. So you will not get any credit related to TRAN1. You may not see the error type of error that is there. You have, for that you have to scroll and see the full line to see what is the error. But you should always remember that you should not submit TRAN1 and file it if there are items with processed with error. You have to first rectify those errors, see that all the line items that you want to declare are successfully saved. Then only you should file TRAN1. Otherwise, those those data will not be. You will not get credit of those line items. Now, I will again come back on this issue. Now, what we have provided is a CSV file upload for giving details of the form, the statutory form CFH during the past 2 years that you are required to file. That CSV file is there, which you can download and use the Excel template to prepare the CSV file, then again upload. You should always ensure that you need to verify the data before you are submitting, and then because once you submit, you cannot change it. And after submitting, you need to file it with GST EVC. Now, one problem which has been often reported is that the taxpayer are unable to claim credit on certain invoices or line items or earlier registration numbers because they were processed with error. Now, these happen because one validation which we have put is that when you mention a registration number of an earlier law against which you are claiming credit, that registration number should also be there in your registration application. Now, frequently people have failed to add them at the time of migration or at the time of new registration. So then what they need to do is use non-core field amendment application and add these new registrations in their specific tab. So if you are adding a central excise registration, you should select a central excise head and then declare the central excise registration and not any other one. Similarly, if you want to add service tax registration, you should use service tax head and then add service tax registration. Further, what we have observed is that people, when they are making amendment in their non-core field, they are facing problem when they are saving the data or filing this non-core amendment application. So what we have issued an advisory also, and we will again ask you to take precautions, check all these different issues that I have listed here before submitting and filing this non-core amendment application. First is that there should not be any special characters in the new registration tax, excise number, VAT or TIN that you're adding. Then you should ensure that there are no duplicate email, phone number used on promoter, partner, authorized signatory tab. You should also ensure that there are no mandatory fields vacant, because sometimes what has happened is when the application is getting retrieved from the earlier when you had filled that migration application, certain fields are blank, but you should ensure you should enter the data which if any mandatory field is blank and data has not been retrieved. Similarly, you should ensure that goods or service, the codes are there, it is not blank. Another problem, but what we have noticed is that the STD code field should not be blank if you are giving a landline number. The STD code number should be mentioned in the field provided for STD code and not mentioned together in that local telephone number field. So if you take precautions, we are sure you will not face problem. You will be able to save and sign and file this non-core amendment application and then take credit in the TRAN 1 form. Now, what we are providing, there was a demand for offline tool because the data uploaded in some tables was voluminous. We have already provided a CSV offline tool for table 5C, and we are also providing, we will be soon providing this offline upload facility for tables of section 6 and 7. These will be provided so shortly. And then another problem which we often people have reported is that they have entered a wrong data in TRAN 1 and they have submitted. So they should not, they should file this TRAN 1, otherwise they will not be able to file this GSTR 3B. And they should not worry, because now as per notified law, they have the facility for revising it once. And we are going to provide this facility very soon on the portal. This revision, TRAN 1 revision facility will be available to you very shortly. Now, same thing in case of TRAN 1 also, you should, in case there has been any technical glitch, now you are doing it, you should clear browsing history, cached images and all those things. What you should, we have provided all this manual help desk on our portal, which you can access. And some of the questions which I have also addressed, but you have asked, I will now take up. One question, people are saying this processed with error, that TRAN 1 is processed with error. I have already told you that you should see the registration numbers, see them whether they are included in your registration details, include them. Most of this processed with error TRAN 1 is because of non-inclusion of registration details of earlier laws in your registration details. Now, you should also remember that if a line is processed with error, you are not going to get credit for it. It is not a part of your TRAN 1. So you should ensure that all your declarations are successful, not processed with error before you submit TRAN 1. Now, another question someone has asked is, if what should he do if he has deposited tax under the wrong head? Now, as per law, as I have told you earlier, there is, if you have deposited cash under a CGST, any other head, you cannot use it for a different head. Even minor head, if you have deposited in cash, you cannot use it for paying interest liability in the same, say, CGST head or late fee liability. So you have to be very cautious when you are preparing your challan and enter values and enter correct values in major and minor heads. Now, people who have made wrong depositions, for them a refund application is going to be available on the portal shortly. They will be able to file that application and get it processed offline and take refund till the online facility is not fully developed. GSTR 3 also provides you to claim refund of any excess in cash ledger. You can also use that. So these are two ways in which you can claim refund. Where there is one question is, GSTR 1 on submission shows error in filing. How to rectify it? See, there are two issues here. When you upload data, if it is error, then you can correct the data and again upload it. But if you have when you submit again, if there is an error, the data will not be submitted. You have to correct the error and then you have to file. However, if you have submitted ignoring certain error files, then you cannot correct after submission. Then there are different options available for you. You can ask your, if you have failed to upload invoices correctly, you can ask your recipients to add them, or you can file an amendment in the subsequent period, or you can, if you fail to upload invoice, you can upload it in the subsequent period. I mean, you can see that we have got a Facebook page, which is available on Facebook/GST System India. We have a Twitter handle, Ask GST Tech, and we have a YouTube channel. You can visit those, and we frequently hold webinars and sessions, and you can watch all these on these links. We often, whenever we come up with some resolutions, some issues, we post it on the Twitter, we post it on the Facebook, and you will be able to, if you follow correctly, you will be able to solve your problems. there are some other questions which can. Acha, some other YouTube question you have. Then there are some questions on the YouTube also. The e-commerce, how to file GSTR1 for e-commerce sales. I've already told you that presently you are not required to upload any entry with e-commerce flag. That e-commerce provision is not yet notified. When it gets notified, all the e-commerce these operators will be given a GSTIN, TCS TIN for their tax collection at source, and then they will provide you that GSTIN, and then you will have to upload this your sales supplies through e-commerce using that GSTIN, that TCS TIN. See, one issue, if ITC is shown wrongly, you need to communicate to us through our this help desk. We will be we have not yet made that facility operational where you can communicate, but you can mail it to us, and we are getting these a few cases rectified. We are checking wherever there is problem, and whenever it comes to our site, our technical team is working on resolving such erroneous entries, errors in while posting in ledger, ITC ledger. I've already said that if you have deposited in a wrong head, then you need to pay your liability, you need to again deposit in the right head. You cannot use that wrong head cess deposit for paying liability of SGST. You have to again deposit that amount into SGST and discharge your liability, and you can claim refund of this excess in your cash ledger of cess amount using the facilities which will be operational soon of refund through a refund RFD01 or through GSTR 3. I think we should close now. We have tried to address many of your queries. Many queries are very legal in nature, and there are interpretational issues. You should take a call taking advice of your legal consultants. Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. It was a very knowledgeable session for each one of us. And the presentation for this particular webinar is available at kms.negd.in. You may go to the Explorer, just put across kms.negd.in, and you can go to the second page of the KMS, where you can put down GSTN, and there you can figure out the webinar's PPT, which is available at your disposal for saving it on your desk. Thank you so much. Happy learning. Keep learning. We will come back with another session sooner. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shalini, and thank you, Shashi sir. Before we sign off, just a quick simulation of how to go to KMS and how to reach our YouTube page, because many of the viewers are asking for offline videos. I would be sharing my screen. This will just take a minute. Thank you for bearing with us. So as Shalini have just said, you have to open any of the browsers and type in kms.negd.in. Once the page is up, you will see a similar page which has been broadcasted as of now. Click on the down arrow. You see a search box. On the search box, you just have to type GST. Hit enter. Now you can see all the presentations are already here. So the today's presentation of a resolution of common issues is present here. You can watch it or you can download it as per your convenience.
Sir, your screen is not available. We can't see anything.
Shalini, is my screen available now?
No, not really. It's available now.
Okay, thanks, Shalini. So as you can see, the presentation for the today's webinar is already available here. You can download it or you can view it as per your convenience. Also, you can watch all the webinars on our YouTube channel. Our handle is Digital India Learning. So as you can see, today's webinar is already available here. Whatever I'm presenting, it's getting showcased live here. All the past webinars are also available on this YouTube channel. Once again, thank you all for joining us and keep coming back to us. Next Wednesday, we are going to come up with another GST webinar. Happy learning. Thank you all.